morning, y'all. Today I'm going to show y'all how to make some rice and gravy with some deer meat. You want to get you out a couple of pounds of deer meat and trim it up really well. All this little stuff gets trimmed off. You can use any part of the deer to make a deer gravy with. I've used the neck, the shoulder, the back leg. Any part of the deer you can take meat from, you can make a gravy with. You don't have to cut this in any particular fashion. You just want to trim it up and cut it up in small enough pieces that you can cook easily. Remember to use a nice sharp knife whenever you're trimming your deer meat. It makes the job a lot easier. I've heard a lot of people say that they really don't care for deer meat, but a lot of times I find the problem is they haven't prepared it properly. If you trim it properly, it's going to be a very good meat to work with to make all kinds of dishes with, and I use it for all kinds of dishes. I just want to show you some of what I've cut and trimmed off of that deer meat. You see all these little white pieces and brown pieces? I took all of that off of those 2 pounds of deer meat. That's a good bit of stuff that I trimmed off of there. When I cook with beef, I leave a lot of the fat on it, but when I cook with deer, I take it all off. You can use a big pot, just about any kind of pot will work. I like to use cast iron. I like to use something with a thick bottom on it so it'll retain the heat well. Get that pot hot. Put you about 2 tablespoons of oil down in the bottom of it. Put your deer meat in a thin layer so that all the pieces can have contact on the bottom of the pot. Let it cook like that until all of the meat gets nice and brown. This is browning very nicely. You see that? When I turn it, it has a nice brown color. I want to turn every piece over and make sure that each piece has a nice chance to brown nicely as well. Don't skip this step because it's a very important step. This is what I'm relying on to make the most flavor for my gravy. Now that it's browned good on all sides, I'm going to take it out, and you see I've been removing it to this little pot on the side, which is not on, but I'm just using it as a holding pot as I'm browning this meat. I'm going to do this in small batches until I have all of my meat browned. So you're going to remove all the meat from the pot, and then you're going to put a little more oil in there. I put some more oil, just enough to cover the bottom of the pot. And in the meantime, while all that was getting browned up and I was using my patience, I was cutting up some onions and some peppers and getting some garlic ready also to go down into that pot. Cut you up a couple of onions. You're just going to cut them like this, and so that they'll be in some small pieces like that. So the next thing we're going to do is put in our cut up onions and peppers. I got about 2 yellow onions cut up here that I'm putting down in the pot, and I got about 2 bell peppers here that I'm putting in the pot. I'll let these saute for a little while. And I'm also going to add a little bit of salt on top of them. While those are sauteing, I'm going to cut up this garlic I have. And I'm going to add it when my onions and peppers are almost completely sauteed. Just to give you an idea, this is a 2-quart pot right here. And I have it full of my browned meat. So that's how much meat is going to be in this gravy. And my onions are sauteing down. They're doing good. I'm going to keep them moving. I don't want to burn them. You don't want no burnt onions. I want my meat browned, and I want my onions and peppers browned to some degree. But you don't want anything burned, so be careful with that. You want it browned, not burned. If I get my onions to this stage right here, I'm ready to add my garlic in. The reason I didn't add the garlic earlier is because it's cut in small pieces. You see that? And I don't want it to brown or too much and get bitter. I don't want it to stay in the pot for that long. All right, now that this has browned nicely, I'm ready to add in my deer meat. So here comes my browned deer meat back into the pot. And at this time, I'm also going to add in some water. And I'm going to cover this meat with water, just like that. I want to stir it and make sure nothing is sticking on the bottom. And I'm going to bring this up to a boil. This is the seasonings I'm gonna add to it. Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, and onion powder. I taste mine as I go and add seasoning as I like. You add the seasonings you like. You really can't go wrong. I just want to show y'all what this looks like about halfway cooked down. And I'm gonna let it continue to cook down a little more, but I'm gonna stir it from time to time just to make sure we don't have any sticking. While I'm waiting for my gravy to cook, I'm gonna cook me some rice. I'm gonna do 3 cups of rice because I'm gonna have company and I need to have plenty of rice. You see how much I've let that gravy cook down? There's hardly no gravy left in it. I'm gonna add some more water to it and cover the meat and cook it down to that degree again. Now that I got this back up to a good boil, I'm gonna put the lid on at this time. I put the lid on so it can get tender faster, and I lowered the fire so that we don't have any boilovers. This gravy has cooked down a couple of times. It's nice and thick, and the meat is nice and tender. You see how when the spoon goes through it like that? When you can get your spoon through your meat just with a spoon, not having to use a knife like that, you know that that meat is tender enough. So we can turn that off. I added me some extra seasoning in there till it tasted the way I wanted it to. And when you cook that gravy down a couple of times, there ain't even a sign of an onion or pepper in there. It just all cooks up. It's time to serve up some of this rice and gravy, y'all. There's the rice. And here's the meat and gravy. There's the rice and there's the meat and gravy, and you serve that up with any kind of side you like. Stir that up, get you a little bit of that deer meat and some of that rice and gravy. It's gonna be so good. Here's the moment of truth. Oh yeah. Ooh, that's good, y'all. Now that's some real food. So now you see how it's done? You can make you one. I hope you'll give it a try. That deer meat's real good, and it's one of our favorites. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.